lucky enough to have most of my symptoms go away. I was able to start drinking coffee again. Of course, I stuck to how much I was allowed, which was, I think it's 2 cups of coffee, of normal coffee, and then if you had filter coffee, only 1. So I'd have a coffee in the morning. If I wanted something in midday, I'd have decaf, or I'd have like hot chocolate or Milo or something like that. And then I'd have another cup of coffee in the evenings when I got home. I still wasn't able to eat chicken. It still put me off, not as badly, but yeah, I tried again at about 17, 18 weeks. I tried to cook chicken again, and I got that same nauseous gag, horrible reflex to it. Poor hubby had to again finish cooking that chicken for me. I felt baby move at about 16, 17 weeks. Those little like ticklish like flutters that you get. It was, oh, that was the most amazing. I actually cried. I remember it. I was sitting in my classroom, and I happened to have my hands on my belly underneath. Obviously I couldn't feel it from the outside, but I happened to have my hands under my belly, and I was sort of putting a bit of pressure on it, and I felt this like little like tickle, and I was like, what was that? Like, was that the baby moving? It was very cool. I started showing also at about 17, 18 weeks, and my clothing started to get very tight around my midsection, so I had to get maternity clothing. I only ordered pants. I didn't have to really go for tops and stuff like that, because like my tops aren't very like tight, they're baggy, so it's okay. I bought 3 pairs of leggings, 2 black and a grey, and I bought 2 pairs of jeans as well with the band on the top. I got those from Mr. Price online, because in-store Mr. Price didn't have their maternity clothing, and the one store that didn't have in my size, so that was fun. I was very upset though, because I mean, a few years back you could walk into a lot of the stores here in South Africa, and all of them had maternity sections. You know, you didn't have to worry about having to find maternity clothing. So I was very upset to now be pregnant and go, okay, I'm going to need maternity clothing, let's go shopping, and then not be able to find anyone who has maternity clothing, unless you want to go and buy at a boutique, which is going to cost like 400 or 500 rand for a pair of jeans that you're going to wear for a few months. And I'm like, it's stupid. I don't want to spend that kind of money on clothing you're not going to wear for that long. Anyway, second trimester was very also uneventful. I felt really good. No issues at all. Obviously baby's moving, which was great. I was feeling great. I had energy. My coffee aversion was gone, so I could drink my coffee again. But other than that, yeah, the second trimester was very easy. I actually really enjoyed it. Loved watching my belly grow during that time. And yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my baby shower, which happened in my 3rd trimester. It was in November. I had 2 baby showers. I had one thrown by my mom and my sisters, and one thrown by my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law. So we'll start with the one my mom and sisters threw for me. It was Harry Potter themed. It was gorgeous. They put so much effort into it, and it looked beautiful. I'll put up pictures so you guys can see what it looked like. They also did Harry Potter themed games for me, and Harry Potter themed food as well. It looked fantastic. I cannot tell them how much I appreciated that, and it looked awesome. It was such a good memory that was. Sister-in-law then threw one for me at the daycare. It's a daycare / aftercare, and that was also really nice. They also did games with me. I got loads of gifts as well there, and yeah, it was also just such a nice relaxing day of sitting, chatting and talking to everyone. And yeah, I also really appreciated the effort she put into that and the time she put into it, and yeah, it was loads of fun and thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, so now we move into the 3rd trimester. That was a bit of a roller coaster, because we were heading towards the end of the year, the school year, so I had to get done before December. I had to have the photos and stuff done for my school. I had to have reports ready and sent out, and just make sure everything was just ready for next year when I wasn't going to be there, because I was going to take maternity leave. So it was a bit of a stressful time for me, And I think that's what also contributed to my diagnosis of high blood pressure, which was, the one thing I really did not enjoy about this pregnancy was this horrible high blood pressure that sort of hung over me the whole time. I didn't have any major symptoms with that besides my hands and feet swelling, but it wasn't like instant swelling like they tell you to be careful of in case of pre-eclampsia. My face never swelled. My face was puffy, but it was like pregnancy like water retention. It wasn't anything to do with the high blood pressure. In that time, I also was very grateful for the body pillows my mother-in-law made for me. Saved my life. If it weren't for them, I think I would have slept worse than I was already sleeping. Belly band was also my lifesaver. I got 2 belly bands from the brand Carrywell. I was also getting up more often and during the night to go to the bathroom. I would also wake up with very intense like hip pain from sleeping on my side. My hips, they've never liked being like that, so that extra pressure on my side, I was constantly turning from one side to the other side to try and just alleviate that pain in my hips. Baby was moving a lot more during this time. Quite often you could actually see my belly moving. I'll see if I can try and find a nice video that I took and put it in so you can actually see my belly moving. At 35 weeks, it was a Saturday. I went through most of the day, and only by the time we got to about 6-7 o'clock in the evening, I realized I hadn't really felt him move a lot that day. So I sort of freaked out a little bit, and I tried to do everything they suggest you do. Drink something cold and sweet, try and move your belly around, you get up and move around to try and get baby to respond and to move to you, and he wasn't doing that. So eventually by, I think it was like 7 or 8 o'clock, hubby and I decided, let's go to the hospital, let's just have him checked out. It could be nothing, it could be he just was in a very deep sleep and didn't want to be woken up, but rather let's be safe than sorry. So we went into the hospital for the first time and took us to one of the rooms, lay me down, gave me a gown, and hooked me up to the baby monitor. Of course, it was literally the second that monitor hit my stomach and he started kicking it. I felt so stupid, but I'm like, okay, now I can see he's moving, I can see his heartbeat, they can see he's okay. Also, because of my high blood pressure, I just wanted to make sure that things were alright. But he was fine. Unfortunately, my blood pressure was a bit all over. So my doctor was a bit concerned and was like, no, she wants to keep me up over another night just to keep an eye on it. And I was like, I don't want to. I want to go home. I don't like hospitals at all. I will admit this hospital did change my mind on that. But at that point I was like, I don't want to stay in this hospital another night, I want to go home. So the nurse convinced the doctor, no, because I had an appointment like the next week anyway. So the nurse convinced her, no, let her go home, you're going to be seeing her again next week anyway for her regular checkup, and you can then check up on everything then. Doctor agreed with the nurse and said, no, I can go home, thank goodness. So we went home, baby was fine for the whole time. We went in for the 36-week appointment then, and Dr. Chet wasn't happy with my blood pressure again, so we upped my blood pressure medication from 1 tablet a day to 2 tablets a day, which seemed to help a bit, but then also I was very bad at not remembering to take my tablets. Oops. So that didn't help either, I'm sure. We then went back into the doctor for my 39-week appointment, and she'd asked me, like, has she checked my cervix and stuff yet? And I was like, no. Like, are you supposed to? She goes, yeah, no, I should have checked that ages ago. We should have been checking if baby was starting to go into your hips from 32 weeks. I'm like, well, no one said anything to me. Like, how am I supposed to know? This is my first baby. that, you know, this is what he's supposed to be doing now. So anyway, she checks and I haven't dilated. It's like still rock solid, nothing has moved. And like no progression, and baby hasn't moved into my hips at all, and I'm 39 weeks already. So she was a bit concerned, and she's like, well, she doesn't want me going past 40 weeks because of my blood pressure, so she thinks we should book a C-section for next week Thursday. And my heart sunk. I was like, that's not what I wanted. I had been working so hard on getting myself ready for natural labor that I didn't want a C-section. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to have this baby naturally. I wanted to go into labor naturally, and because that's what we're supposed to do, and I wanted to do that. There was also thanks to watching a YouTuber called Sarah Levon. I'll link her page down below because she's fantastic, and if you are an expecting mommy and want to know things about anything birth related, go and watch her video. She is a registered nurse, so she knows what she's talking about. She's not just spouting nonsense. And she also does do online classes as well for her company, which is bundlebirth.com. They are awesome. I would have loved to have done one of her online classes. Unfortunately, the dollar to rand exchange rate kind of put the brakes on that because it was a bit expensive for me to do that. But please go and have a look at her page. Anyway, so I was very disappointed. I was in tears. I was so upset. My hubby was very sweet and said, you know, we'll figure it out. You know, things might change. Who knows? Maybe something will change and you'll be able to. But something told me, no, it's not going to happen. The doctor did say we needed to go in the following Monday because that was a Wednesday before, and we needed to go in the following Monday for another checkup before we went then for the C-section on the Thursday. And he said to me, let's do all the exercises and stuff that we saw on the internet and try and see if we can get this baby to move. You know, we can do this. But I wanted to prepare myself for the fact that I was going to be having a C-section. I called my mom in tears because my mom has had 3 C-sections. I was an emergency C-section, so she also went from natural labor to nope, we're slicing you open. So I spoke to her. She was fantastic. Love my mom. She helped me through that so nicely, comforted me, made me realize it's not that bad, that you know, I'll get through it, and there are perks to having a C-section. I then also spoke to another friend of mine who also ended up having a surprise C-section. She went into the doctor's office for her, what turned out to be her last appointment, and they told her in that appointment, nope, we're taking you into theatre today. So I mean, she didn't even have the week I had to come to terms with it. It was, we're having the baby today for her. So she sort of knew what I was going through and understood. So I got to speak to her, and she was also loads of help. So yeah, I started coming to terms with it and watching all the YouTube videos on C-sections and what I can expect and what will happen and how it'll happen, and all of that made me feel better. We went into the appointment on Monday. She didn't do an ultrasound or anything like that. They literally just took the baby up to the monitor just to keep an eye on him and see how he's doing. Checked my blood pressure because that was their main concern, was my blood pressure. And then she came in to feel my belly, and she looks at me and she goes, do you want me to do an internal exam to see if maybe something's changed? So I was like, sure, go for it. I wasn't expecting anything. Like, I'm gonna be the same I was on Wednesday. What do you want? So she does an internal exam and she goes, you've actually dilated a bit. I was like, oh my gosh. So she goes, this baby might just come before Thursday, before the C-section. She says, and if it does, then we'll let you have your baby naturally. I was like, oh my gosh, over the moon, yay, I'm gonna get what I wanted. So ecstatic. So go out to see my hubby in tears because now I'm happy about this. And I then whole of Monday and most of Tuesday on the birthing ball, yoga ball, doing all the exercises and stuff I can to try and get this baby to go where he needs to and to progress and to get these contractions and stuff going. Contractions then started on Tuesday evening at about 7-8 o'clock at night. We were at my brother-in-law for his daughter's birthday and they started there. Not too bad, sort of mild on and off, like the Braxton Hicks I've been having for a while already, but sort of more consistent. So we came back from that and I said to hubby, I'm just gonna take a shower, get ready for bed. Climbed into bed and went to sleep, no problems, at probably about 11:30. I then was woken up at 4 o'clock with very heavy contractions, and I sat and I opened up my app I had on my phone and started timing my contractions and how far apart they were and how long they were lasting. And the app came up consistently, go to the hospital, go to the hospital. So I was like, okay, so maybe this is it, maybe I am going to have this baby before the C-section on Thursday, which I was very excited about. So I woke hubby up and said to him, okay, I think we should go to the hospital now. This app keeps telling me we need to, and let's go do this. So we get everything into the car, we go to the hospital, they hook me up and everything, get me ready, just to have the contractions start to dwindle and not be as intense as they were and to not be as close as they were together. And when they checked, I was still exactly where I was on Monday with my cervix. It hadn't dilated any more than what it was on Monday. So I was a bit upset about that. They gave me a sedative which would either stop the contractions or the contractions would continue through it. For me, what happened is the contractions sort of died down a little bit, but the minute the sedative started to wear off, the contractions did come back. They never got really intense to the point of I couldn't handle them. They were sore, but not take my breath away, screaming in pain kind of sore. They were more very intense cramps where you through them more than anything else. So we got to about 6 o'clock that evening. My doctor came in to see me for the last time that day. She then did an internal exam on me and said, no, nothing has changed. She doesn't think this baby's coming before tomorrow. We're going to just go ahead with the C-section. Which I was like, okay. I was expecting this, so I'm okay with it. It's alright. So her and the nurse walk out of the room. Hubby says to me, okay, well, he's just going to go home then quickly and feed the dogs and get a few things from home for comfort's sake and to be ready for tomorrow. But just before he leaves, my doctor comes in again and she goes, why don't we do the C-section tonight? I was like, okay. She goes, unless you want to wait and see if something happens. I was like, no, I don't think anything's going to. She's like, yeah, no, me and the nurse don't think so either. So let's just do it tonight. I'm like, okay, all right. And she goes, okay, but my doctor can be a bit scatterbrained. So I wasn't 100% sure, this is what we'd agreed on, and she left. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. But then the nurse came in to give me that sedative thing again, and I thought, okay, but why is she doing this to stop to see what's going to happen with the contractions if we're going to do the C-section? So I was a bit confused, and hubby was as well. So I said to him, just go home, do what you need to at home, and I'll let you know what's going on, over WhatsApp. So he leaves, and it wasn't about 10-15 minutes later, maybe a bit longer than that, the nurse comes in again, and she comes in and she goes, oh no, I need to do a drip. I was like, why are you doing a drip? She goes, no, I'm prepping you to go into theatre for your C-section. So of course I freak out because now my husband's not at the hospital. So I quickly pull my phone out, send him a WhatsApp and go, you need to get here now, they're prepping me for labour, they put my IV in. So he's like, I'm coming. Shame he was in such a rush. He left the back door unlocked and open, and he left the dogs inside the house. So yeah, thank goodness he had to come back. He wasn't allowed to stay over with me at the hospital, so he had to come back at least so he could let the dogs out and everything. So yeah, he got back to the hospital in record-breaking time. I think he must have taken 3-4 minutes to get back to the hospital, and it's a good 10-minute drive from home. So yeah, he raced back, and he helped me then fill out forms. The anesthesiologist came and spoke to me about what was going to happen. The nurses explained everything, the doctor explained everything, and then my hubby was then also told what he had to do, what he had to wear. He was also then told like he's not allowed to touch anything in that theatre. They will sort of guide him around the theatre, because if he touches anything in the theatre, they would have to clear everything out, sterilize everything again, and then start again, which is going to take time. So you have to be very careful. So it was just before 8 o'clock. They wheel me out of my room and into theatre, move me from my bed to the theatre bed. They sit me up and make me bend over so they can do the epidural. Not that bad. I felt very weird having my legs go numb like that and just suddenly losing all feeling in the bottom half of my body. They lay me down, put the sheet thing up in front of me. The anesthesiologist is telling my husband how our doctor lets you take pictures once the baby is out. So he said he'll tell my hubby when he can stand up and start taking pictures, and I'm listening to him. And the next minute the nurse next to me is fiddling with the theatre light above me, and she puts her hand under the sheet, like below the sheet, and she looks at me and she goes, "Can you see my hand's reflection in the light?" So I look up and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I can see the reflection." She goes, "Okay." And she moves her hand, and I suddenly realize I can see my own stomach. I can see where they've started drawing the line where they're going to now make my incision for the C-section, and I'm going to be able to watch this entire thing in that reflection. No. No. The reason they do that is so that you can see your baby being born, but I don't want to see what happens before that. That is just so weird and creepy, and no. So, needless to say, I sat with my head like this, talking to my husband until they told me I could look up. Yeah, but it was very quick though, from that moment to watching them put draw the line on for my incision, to me turning my head to tell my hubby what was happening in the light, to hearing the anesthesiologist tell my husband, "Oh, you can stand up now." Oh, that was before. I forgot to tell you this. Let's do this first. So, for any moms who've had a C-section, they know this. For the moms who haven't, or for the new moms, this is something I didn't know either. So to get the baby out with a C-section, you think they cut you open, hands in, pull baby out. Cut you open, all the muscle, open everything, and then someone comes up here on your chest, so just under your breasts, and they push down like they're popping a pimple, and bloop, out comes baby. So that sensation was very weird. There's someone it was like pressure on my stomach, and then that push down. That felt very weird, and you can sort of feel like air sort of being forced out of your lungs as well because of the pressure they have to put on. So yeah, they do that, they push like that, and then the anesthesiologist is like, "Oh, you can stand up, you can take pictures now." So my hubby stands up, and that's of course when I look up into the theatre light, and there's my little man. I'm doing it again. These are happy tears. There's my little man, I got to see him. He didn't really cry, he gave like this little squeak. And yeah, Tian's got awesome pictures of him being born. They then took him over to the little baby bed to have him checked out to make sure he was okay. Tian's obviously went with. I kept my head that way to look, so I didn't see what they were doing, closing me up. Tian's got to cut the umbilical cord. Tian's got to hold him first, which I think is actually really special that he got to hold his son first. Gorgeous little guy, skinny little thing, I love him. They then came over and let me hold him on my chest. I didn't do skin to skin, I have to admit. My mind didn't even go there. I know you are allowed to with a C-section, but with how fast everything happened that night, I didn't even think to tell someone, please let me do skin to skin first, but it's alright. I got to hold him. He's got this cute little smooshy face in the photos of me holding him like that. And then from there, they took him, obviously, Tiens took him. They then put me back onto a normal hospital bed, and Tiens gave him back to me. We then went back to what was a shared room. I was then moved to a private room later, and luckily I was alone in the shared room though, which was nice. But yeah, so when I got back to the room, my mother-in-law and father-in-law were there. I was a little sad because my parents weren't going to be there, because they would have had to have travelled from Joburg all the way through to us, and it was late at night, and I didn't think they were going to come through, but my parents and my husband were conspiring, I think, after they found out that I was going to have my C-section, and yeah, they popped in like not 5 minutes later, which was really nice to have my parents there as well. And yeah, I got to show him off to his grandparents. It was a whirlwind. So yeah, that was my pregnancy from beginning to end, how I found out how we fell pregnant, through all 3 trimesters to having him in the hospital. I wouldn't change a thing, not a thing. I loved every part of my pregnancy, good, bad and ugly. I am so looking forward to having another baby again, so looking forward to being pregnant again, that a lot of people think I'm crazy. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next one. We're hoping end of this year, beginning of next, depending on what's happening in the world and what's happening with us as well, because I want a nice closer age gap between my kids, so hopefully we are able to have our next one next year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going through all of that again, and even the stuff that made it difficult, I'm looking forward to, because you know what, that all leads to the most awesome ending. I have the most amazing little boy that I wouldn't change anything in the world for. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you all were able to take something away from it or learn something new. And please go like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again for my next video. Bye!